Ferngully The Last Rainforest is a 1992 animated film about not destroying nature. It mostly focuses on pollution and deforestation. The overall message is still the same: don't kill the planet. Has some fun songs. It also has some pretty distinct and good animation, especially for its time. For the first time, Tim Curry and Robin Williams are in a movie together. This happens 7 years later in a live action movie, Get Bruce. I don't really care what it's about. Last Rainforest is not a perfect movie, though, even though I do have a special place in my heart for it. It's a nostalgic favorite. I hold a lot of love for it, but I can see that it's not perfect. It's not bad, it's pretty good, it's not great. I can't even watch it anymore though, for how much I did love it. The DVD got absolutely destroyed. I would watch that thing in the car, I would watch it in the backyard, I'd watch it on the TV. I have it on VHS, which you would think would be useless because nobody has a VHS player anymore, but we did have one. We had one. We used it for the Wii, and then sometimes I would watch Treasure Planet on it, but we got rid of it like 3 years ago. So it is now super useless, this VHS of this movie. But we're not here for Fern Gully The Last Rainforest. Not really. We are here for the sequel film released 6 years later on March 17th of 1998. Actually, it's 5 years, 10 months, 24 days, but if I have to know that, you also have to know that. Fern Gully The Magical Rescue is a very interesting movie, to say the least. Especially when we start comparing the cast and crew of The Magical Rescue to The Last Rainforest. Just for example, there is exactly one producer in The Magical Rescue, and they aren't even listed as producer. They are listed as pre production management, which is odd. And the huge loss in numbers working on the Magical Rescue compared to the Last Rainforest is ridiculously apparent when you just kind of scroll through the IMDb page. I mean, like, look at this. What the fuck? This becomes incredibly apparent when you look at the amount of people in the music departments for both movies. You would make the fair assumption that for movies that both have full scores and also songs with lyrics in them that people need to sing, that you would have at least a fair amount of people working on music. You'd be wrong, though, incredibly wrong. In Fern Gully The Magical Rescue, they have a whopping, astounding 5 people working on the music in this entire movie. And not gonna lie, super apparent. So incredibly apparent. There's so much wrong with the music going on here. There were multiple times that I had to pause the movie and figure out what the fuck was going on. And we will get to those. I will make a point to mention all of those moments. So then you might be wondering, well, how many people were working on the music in The Last Rainforest? It can't be that big of a gap. It has to be like maybe max 40, 50. Oh God, maybe 60 people. Wrong. Again, incorrect. You will never guess this number based off of the 5 that I gave you before. No, there are 98 credited artists, credited people for The Last Rainforest. 98. And why do I mention credited? Well, because there was actually 101 total people working on the music for this movie. All right? 101 compared to 5. And speaking of uncredited artists, by the way, in The Last Rainforest, they have 22 total uncredited people who worked on this movie. Now, I'm not entirely sure the process that goes into people not being credited for things, but one of these people was Krista's father, and I think that's really weird that he remained uncredited. So I would just like to really quickly shout out all of these people who worked on a movie that I loved so very much as a kid. So I would just like to give a really quick shout out to Linda Gary, Little Richard, Douglas Seal, Chris Peterson, Mark Lanza, Richard Partlow, Scott A. Tinsley. William Poloski, Joseph Thomas, Stephen Wood, Diane Wright, Thomas Baker, Mark Henley, Ed Bell, Daryl Cardenson, Ian Gardner, Brian McEntee, Gina Shea, Ellen Carlson, Andrew Silver, James Thatcher, and Vicky Casper. But of all of the weird cast and crew shit that happened for the Magical Rescue, the most surprising change is the voice cast because that changes everybody. Yeah, nobody reprised their role for the Magical Rescue at all. In fact, nobody from the original came back for this movie at all. The only name that is on both The Last Rainforest and The Magical Rescue is this woman named Diane Young, who wrote the book Fern Gully that went with both movies. Or at the very least, The Last Rainforest. It says it's a tie in for both movies, but I haven't read the book, so I'm not super sure about that. Um, but she didn't actually work on the movies. She wrote the book for, at the very least, the first movie. And she's the only one who has her name on both of them. But going back to the actual movie itself, there are a couple things that the Magical Rescue has in common with The Lost Rainforest rather than just the same characters and general setting. And that is the fact that they both are musical movies in a vague sense. Both movies have some songs sung by the characters in the movie. Um, Last Rainforest has more of that, but they still have songs that are not sung by characters and they're just kind of like there. The last one's made by Elton John. What the fuck? What the fuck? And away from Elton John, the songs that are sung specifically by characters in Ferngully The Last Rainforest are the best songs. I didn't point out Land of a Thousand Dances because that's not really sung by any character. It is Zach's MP3 player. But Batty Rap, If I'm Gonna Eat Something, It Might As Well Be You, and Toxic Love are fantastic. Like, the music's already good, but those three, they have something going on. Maybe it's the immersion that just brings them up that extra level, and it is fantastic. And it's amazing, and I love it. And the one song in Ferngully, The Magical Rainforest, has the same thing, but for all the different reasons. And I promise we'll get to it because it is my favorite part of this fucking movie. Oh my god, this is the best part of the movie. You're gonna love it when we get there. I promise. And just so that you guys are aware, this isn't just the best song and the best part of the movie. It is the best song and best part of the movie by a huge margin. So look forward to that. So why are we here, right? Why am I just a young adult working two jobs, spending so much time and effort into making a YouTube video, something I've never done before in my life and will never do after this, on a movie that is nothing? There's so little here about this movie. And I am not talking about the movie itself. I'm talking about its presence, especially online, which is the only way that I would be able to get any information about it. And I haven't got a lot. Not a lot of people have even like talked about this movie. You want to know who has talked about this movie? Nostalgia Critic from Channel Awesome 8 years ago, back when like he meant something and mattered. And beyond just people talking about the movie and the fact that it is only Nostalgia Critic from almost a decade ago now, there is little actual like video of this movie. YouTube Movies has it for free, which is great. So if you want to watch it, you can watch it. I don't know why, because Fern Gully 1 is also there for free. So just go watch the better movie. But you have the trailer, you have the song I've been talking about in two different parts, one without the first part and one without the second part. And trust me, we'll get to why that is a thing. You have one that for some reason is all the licking scenes from a character that I adore and am confused and bewildered by. And then you have another song, a song that made me enraged and is sort of the reason I'm here right now, all in Portuguese. And the Portuguese version is better, by the way. And then you have a romance scene that isn't real and is a blatant misinterpretation of the scene in question. And I don't that's it. That's all that exists. There's nothing else here. There's a couple of other translated versions, but there's no English versions of any song except for the one song that has been split up into two different videos from two different people, right? Like there's nothing here. So why am I doing this? What do I gain out of it? And the answer is really simple. It made me upset. It just made me upset. And no movie has made me actually upset. Some movies have made me feel sick. Some movies have made me feel very sad and heartbroken. But no movies made me feel genuine like aggression levels of why that this one did. And it's very clear and very evident. I have evidence of the anger and upset that this movie gave me in the form of three front and back pages of notes that I took the second time I watched this. And the first time, I made a really, really long Tumblr post about it. And not long as in multi paragraph, you need to put it under a read more levels of long. No, long as in I watched the whole movie and was reblogging the same post with extra updates out of context about this stupid fucking movie. And what really gets me is how fucking weird the whole reason I watched this movie in the first place was. Because I was watching a Nightmind video. I don't remember which one. I was just going through a whole bunch of his old stuff because I like watching him. And if you don't know who Nightmind is, he is a YouTuber who pretty much exclusively deals with unfiction and ARGs, which has nothing to do with this 1990s animated feature film. Nothing! But it shows up in my recommended page at like 1 in the morning, anyways. Which is the other thing. Why are you going to recommend a children's movie to someone watching ARG deep dive videos at 1 in the fucking morning? Why are you going to do that? So that's step 1. Step 2 came after watching the movie. And that was after everything had been said and done, I was just sitting in my room in the dark, amazed and horrified at what I had just watched. And I started writing all these different monologues and rants in my head. And I went, you know what? Why don't I just? Why don't I just? And so that brings us here now. And here now is me ranting already about a movie that is nothing. There's nothing happening here. It's a 0 calorie movie. It's the water has more interesting qualities than this movie does. And it made me upset. And so I'm going to talk about it. And you, for some reason, have decided to listen. So please enjoy. Oh, also, quick aside, so the download of the movie that I spent like 2 weeks trying to get is entirely in German, except for the file that only works on my media player. So, for anything that I do not think is super, super important for you to hear in the original English, I have gotten a couple of friends to voice act different scenes out for you. So, enjoy those little things.